Good evening. Tonight, we bring you an investigation that affects every human being on this planet. From a student in America drowning in college loans, to the farmer in Ghana losing his land, to entire nations on the brink of collapse. We're all caught in the same trap.
And this trap has a name: debt. But this isn't just the story of some numbers on a balance sheet. This is the story about power, control, and a system designed to keep you enslaved. Because let's be clear, when you're in debt, you're not free.
The numbers are staggering. Global public debt has reached an unprecedented $102 trillion in 2024. That's up from $97 trillion. The International Monetary Fund puts it differently. Total debt, public and private combined, equals 235% of the world GDP. The world owes more than twice what it produces. We're not living beyond our means. We're living in a fantasy.
And this fantasy has consequences, real consequences. Nations are collapsing, families are being destroyed, future is being stolen. But here is what mainstream media won't tell you. This is by design.
Tonight, we are going to do something different. We're going to show you the crisis with data, with facts, with real stories. But we're also going to show you something the media deliberately ignores: the alternative.
This solution is rooted in ancient Hindu economic principles. It's a solution that has financed centuries of prosperity without creating systemic debt. It's an alternative that's being rebuilt right now in KAILASA, the world's first Hindu sovereign nation.
Some of you are already skeptical. Hindu economics, ancient systems. This sounds like mysticism. Stay with us. By the end of this broadcast, you'll understand why the ancient system worked and why the modern system is designed to fail.
Because here's tonight's thesis: debt is not an economic problem, it's a consciousness problem. And until we understand that, we're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
So let's start with you. Yes, you watching in this broadcast. Let's talk about personal debt, the chains you can't see but feel every single day.
In the United States, the world's largest economy, the supposed land of opportunity, household debt has reached $18.04 trillion in 2024. That's a new record.
So focus on just credit card debt alone, $1.2 trillion. That's an increase of $45 billion in a single quarter, 7.3% higher than a year ago. The average American household now carries $6,000 plus in credit card debt.
But these are averages. Averages hide the pain. NerdWallet's 2024 American Household Credit Card Debt Study found that among households with revolving credit card debt, meaning they don't pay it off every month, the numbers are far worse. NerdWallet has given evidence that 60% of credit card users carry revolving debt month after month.
And here's the real killer. Delinquencies are rising. The St. Louis Federal Reserve reports that the share of people 30 days delinquent on credit card debt has trended upward since the first half of 2021. And that trend is widespread across demographics.
Translation? More and more people can't even make their minimum payments. They're caught in what financial advisors euphemistically call a debt spiral. But let's call it what it is: a slow motion drowning.
The conventional explanation goes like this: people are irresponsible. They spend beyond their means. They buy things they don't need. And yes, there's truth in that. But that's just the surface. Let's go a little deeper.
Take student loans. 1.61 trillion in outstanding student debt in America. Young people are told, get educated, get a degree, get a good job. So they borrow 50,000, 100,000, sometimes 200,000 just for their education.
But here's what they're not told. The jobs they were promised don't exist, or they pay half of what was expected, or they require 5 years or more of unpaid internships. So they graduate with debt, but without the means to pay it, and the interest keeps compounding.
I want you to understand what compound interest means in human terms. Let's say you borrow $50,000 for college at 6% interest. If you make minimum payments, you'll pay $93,255 over 20 years, nearly double what you borrowed. That's $43,255 paid just in interest.
For what? For knowledge? No. Because here's the dirty secret. Knowledge is available for free. Every university lecture is on YouTube. Every textbook is online. You're not paying for knowledge. You're paying for a credential, a piece of paper that says you're worthy of employment.
And here's where we get to the Hindu perspective, where we will explore all of this very shortly. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the founder of KAILASA, has said explicitly that knowledge should be free. And in KAILASA's economic model, education is a fundamental right, not a death sentence.
But in the modern model, education creates debt, which creates servitude. A 22-year-old with $100,000 in student loans cannot take a risk, cannot start a business, cannot refuse a bad job, cannot fight injustice, because they need that paycheck to service their debt.
You see where this goes. Debt is control. The indebted cannot rebel. And that, whether intentional or not, is extraordinarily convenient for those in power.
Now you might think this is an American problem, a developed world problem. Wrong. The developing world has it far worse.
In developing countries, total debt stands at 206% of GDP. And that was just in 2023. That's nearly double the average
in new financing. They're bleeding capital while drowning in debt.
So whether you're a student in Boston or a farmer in Bangladesh, the story is the same. Borrow to survive today, sacrifice tomorrow. This is the modern economic system in a nutshell.
Now we come to the question economists never ask. Why? Why are individuals, corporations, and nations all addicted to debt? Why can't we stop borrowing?
The conventional answer is it's human nature. We want more than what we have. We're greedy. But that's just lazy thinking. Because humans live for thousands of years without drowning in systemic debt. What changed?
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam, not economic, it's psychological.
When the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was once asked this practical question, we have a lot of debts.
Pain, the moment you remember about money. You never look into your accounts, what comes, what goes, till the whole thing collapses.
Incompletion. This is a concept, apurna, a state of being incomplete, fragmented, carrying unresolved psychological patterns.
And the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism continues. Let me ask you a very bold question. All of you are here to know about the secrets of attracting wealth. How many of you have so much of pain the moment you remember about wealth and you never look into your balance sheet?
And here's the key insight. Fear of looking at your balance sheet lets it rot.
Think about this honestly. How many
spots, if left unattended, become cancerous?
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism explains, a broken relationship is cancer in the relationship field. Debt is cancer in the wealth field. It is only a blind spot that becomes cancer.
This is profound. In modern psychology, we call this avoidance behavior or financial anxiety. But the Hindu framework goes deeper. It identifies this
balance. You will get out of debt within 1 year.
It is not through magic, it is through consciousness, through the simple act of facing your financial reality without avoidance.
But here's something crucial. Take this as a religious responsibility. Decide every single night religiously, you will check your balance sheet, because techniques you will just dump in the dustbin within 10 days, but you will never stop your religious duty.
Now, let's pause and acknowledge something. Many financial advisors will say something similar. Track your expenses, review your budget, know your net worth. So what's different here?
The difference is the context. In the modern framework, checking your balance is a chore, a mundane task you should do probably, but you won't. In the Hindu system,
you do it with reverence, with completeness, and with awareness.
This is where we need to understand the deeper Hindu concept of dharma and karma. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, yoga is skill in action, not blind action, not compulsive action, conscious action.
Debt in the Hindu framework is the result of avidya, ignorance. Not ignorance of economics, but ignorance of your own patterns. You borrow unconsciously, you spend unconsciously, and you avoid consciously.
And here is where the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's teachings become most relevant for everyone. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism says, don't borrow money. It's not saying don't borrow money. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is saying complete with your relationship with money.
Swamiji, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, addresses the psychological patterns of wealth directly. When asked about lotteries, Swamiji, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, responded, lotteries do not make people rich. Lotteries just bring people who are continuously harassing around you. Why? Because when you fall for greed, when you have greed, you can be easily made to fall for it. If you have greed, you will have a big board on your forehead telling people, please come and cheat me. Anybody can sit and talk to you for 10 minutes and dangle a carrot and take away what you have.
This is critical. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is identifying greed as the twin of debt. You go into debt because of greed, the desire to have now what you haven't earned yet. And the financial system exploits that greed.
But here's the solution. Again, not necessarily economic, but spiritual. First, bring completion and the ability to handle the money. When it comes, it will be a blessing, a joy, and a celebration.
Completion. That word again. In Sanskrit, it means purna, wholeness, completeness, having nothing left incomplete.
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism teaches the completion process. Every night for 21 days, you sit with yourself and complete with all of your incompletions around wealth, your fears, your greed. The system changes tomorrow. Let's say we cancel all the debt, redistribute all the wealth, create a perfect economic system. People with incompletions will recreate the debt. The external changes without the internal completion makes it temporary.
That is why lottery winners go bankrupt. That's why celebrities with millions commit suicide. That is why inherited wealth often destroys families. Money without completion is poison.
So the Hindu perspective doesn't deny systemic issues. It addresses the root that makes those systemic issues possible: unconsciousness.
Now, let's scale up from individuals to nations. Because if you think personal debt is bad, sovereign debt is apocalyptic.
We're going to take you through several case studies, real countries, real collapses, real human suffering. And we're going to show you the pattern. Every collapsing nation exhibits the same incompletion the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism describes, but at a national level.
Sri Lanka. In 2022, this island nation of just 22 million people experienced its worst economic crisis since independence in 1948.
The results? Fuel shortages so severe that vehicles were abandoned on highways. But here's what's important to understand. That didn't happen overnight.
Continued. Then came the decision that broke everything: organic farming. In 2021, they banned chemical fertilizers overnight to make Sri Lanka 100% organic. Noble, perhaps, but rice production collapsed by 40%. Food had to be imported. With what money? More debt.
The country ran out of foreign currency and couldn't import food, and couldn't pay debt. And default was inevitable.
Now, if we apply Swamiji's teachings to this framework, it comes down to fear of looking at the balance sheet, which lets it rot. Sri Lankan leaders knew that the debt was unsustainable, but they avoided the pain of tough decisions. They kept borrowing, kept avoiding, until the blind spot became a cancer.
And now, if we see other countries, Pakistan, a nuclear-armed nation of 240 million people, perpetually on the edge of bankruptcy.
And recently, the IMF has said that Pakistan has achieved short-term stability, but remains burdened by high debt, weak investments, and slow employment growth.
Short-term stability. Let us translate. The patient isn't dead yet, but the disease is terminal.
So what is the actual problem? It's the same as Sri Lanka. Decades of borrowing without building productive capacity. Money borrowed for defense spending, for subsidies, for corruption, but not for industries that generate wealth.
So again, let's apply the framework of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Whenever we borrow more, hoping that the crisis will be evaded, that is the problem. This is what